A living soil full of biological diversity is essential when setting the stage for optimal growth in your vegetable garden. But don't treat your soil like dirt. While cover crops may not be the sexiest of garden topics, they are essential for promoting a healthy garden soil. So in this video, I want to explain to you and break down why you should be growing cover crops and the selections that you can choose based on the season. I'm Scott from New Garden Road, always out here to inform, inspire, and elevate you. Encouraging biodiversity and restoring habitat is my mission, one garden at a time. One of the analogies that has recently been inspired through my gardening practice is that plants are the conductors of the symphony that is the soil food web. Now, the soil food web may sound like a complicated thing, but it's just how nature works. If you look at the soil and all those living microbes, the relationships that they have, the healthy competition, which, promotes a balance in our garden ecosystems, it also translates to the nutrients being cycled and available to plants. And plants really control this whole mechanism because they take the energy from the sun, they photosynthesize, and then they can do things through their root structures to partner with these microbes in a way that helps them grow. So why not foster a healthy living soil so that you can have a naturally robust garden? If you're starting your garden and you have poor soil or you don't have much to work with, you can build that soil and that soil life with cover crops. If you're taking time away from the garden or you just don't have anything growing, this can be a great way to essentially promote a living mulch, which would protect that soil microbiome, and with some moisture that will really help those cover crops to thrive. And when you come back to your garden, you won't be starting from scratch. You'll have something there to work with. You'll already have a population of microbes in that soil, which will help your garden to grow. When you leave your soil bare, you will be void of all that life and nothing will be there to carry forward. Over time, that can be something that you'll have to put more inputs into. You're gonna have to buy more compost, more inoculants, more fertilizer, and put that back in. And if you are in the realm of vegetable gardening and you're harvesting and you're taking away, just think about that relationship. If you're always taking out of the vegetable garden, but you're not putting back in, that's the part of the equation that you need to look at more closely. Cover crops can help you bridge that gap, and they can do a lot for your garden ecosystem. And you should also be aware that many of these cover crops are food crops. So whether or not you are growing them out just to improve your soil and you don't care about getting food from them, or you're going to double dip and do both of those things, you have some options along the way. I have raised beds, and when I grow my cover crops, I'm not going to do what many farmers or gardeners would traditionally do, which would be to till them under, because that just doesn't really work in a practical manner here in my raised beds. What I like to do is cut them at the soil level, so I leave those essential root structures intact. I leave them in the soil to break down naturally and feed the soil life, and I'll take the tops and I'll do one of two things. Sometimes I will just chop them up and drop them in the bed. That's called chop and drop. That's a great way to cycle nutrients. All of those elements that went into building those cover crops can be returned to that soil. And you can work in some transplants at that point, pull away some of that cover, and as it breaks down, it will work to feed those plants that you've got going. Now, if you want to plant seeds, I find this to be a bit more of a dilemma. So what I like to do is, again, I will cut the cover crops at the soil level, but instead of leaving them in place, I will chop them up and work them into my compost pile. They're a great source of nitrogen, so a green material that you would add to your compost, you'll need to cut that in with at least 2 parts of browns or carbon-rich material. Another interesting point about these cover crops is that there's a certain point in the season when they start to mature and they may put on some flowers, and that can attract various type of insects. And at that point, they could be, bad bugs or pest insects. And we might consider them to be trap crops in this instance. So they become a habitat for those pest insects, and we would hope that they wouldn't take refuge in other areas of our garden where we want to grow new crops. However, instead of looking at them as trap crops, I think we should promote this idea that they are beacons for biodiversity, because when you have those bad bugs, you're going to naturally attract the good bugs or the predatory insects. And that's what I see here in my Austin, Texas garden. This time of year, we're in late March, and I've got some hairy vetch and some crimson clover that are maturing and flowering. And they were some of the first flowers to bloom, which is really amazing to see, because the early butterflies and pollinators will come out and they really feast and need the nectar from those flowers, because coming through a cold spell here in January, a lot of the natives have not really woken up yet. So we didn't have a whole lot of blooms, but these cover crops offer a wide array of benefits, including, food in terms of pest insects, nectar from the flowers that they produce, and a general space to inhabit. So they're like a home for biological diversity. So it doesn't just happen in the soil, it happens up top. That's the soil food web. So the cover crops that I have growing now in my spring garden, I planted in the fall and winter months here. And those include those that I mentioned, the crimson clover, the hairy vetch, but you could also select one known as Austrian winter pea. A couple that might be lesser known would be the fava bean. And what about chickpeas? I love those. One takeaway that I had through this winter was when we had a really cold snap in January, I protected my crops that I was growing for food, my kale, my broccoli, but I did not cover the raised beds that had cover crops growing in them. And I did that intentionally because I wanted to level the load for myself. I didn't want to have to put in all that work. And I didn't know for sure whether or not they would survive. We had, several nights of hard freezes in the teens and 20s, so pretty cold weather. And what I saw was that the cover crops did indeed die back. And I thought, well, that's what happened. I was prepared to deal with it, and I'll be planting something new pretty soon either way. And I just left them in place because, like mulch, they were forming organic mass there to help protect soil biology. But I didn't really count them out fully, and I started to see some new growth, and they came all the way back. This is the crimson clover. As it matures, it has that beautiful red flower. This is a great source for pollinators. And then this is the hairy vetch, which is actually quite beautiful. These blooms have been going off here for probably about 3 weeks, and I saw the first butterflies of the season. They were all over these. So it kind of looks like a mess. It might look like weeds, and there's certainly periods of the season without the blooms that it will look like that. But just think about all you're doing for the soil down here. It's nice and protected. And also, I have not been actively watering this bed, so it looks pretty dry to me, and that's not the greatest thing. However, it does go to show the attributes of many of these cover crops can be quite drought tolerant. Another lesser known option for cover crops during the fall and winter, you could look at daikon radish. Why? Because if you've got a heavy clay soil or one that you're trying to build up over time, those daikon radish, which if you don't know, they can get 18 to 24 inches, a few inches around. They really go deep into that soil to break up that clay. And then if you just let them essentially rot in place, then you're going to have all that matter, organic matter, feeding back into that system, and you've also opened it up. So now, as we are moving into spring and eventually into summer, I have a different list of cover crops that I like to employ in my garden, and there's some of my favorite food crops too. Number one would be the southern peas. You might know these as black-eyed peas, but there are numerous varieties. They're so beautiful and delicious. They all have different stories, where they come from, who's tended to them over the years. I like to grow one called Big Red Ripper. It's an heirloom from Southern Virginia and North Carolina. Very productive field pea that grows out, 6 to 9 feet. So it really covers the ground beyond my raised beds. My raised beds essentially disappear under these southern peas. And in the process, they are keeping weeds from growing in the garden. So that's a great way to look at them in your garden space. They can help to control weeds. And one thing I didn't mention earlier with the legumes like the peas and the vetch and the fava beans and chickpeas for the cool season is that they have the capacity to fix nitrogen on their roots. And that's why I like to leave those roots in place, because that nitrogen can stay there and break down and go on to feed future crops. So southern peas are another legume that you can grow into the warm season, and they will grow on, and they can benefit your soil in that way. The next one to consider might not be as much of a food crop if you're growing on a small scale, but you can consider buckwheat. Now, this is a little bit more of a compact cover crop, and that's why I like it in urban garden spaces, because it generally grows around 18 to 24 inches tall and maybe about a foot wide. It's not a real big plant. It's fairly sturdy. It's actually pretty beautiful. It's got a reddish color that will develop on the base of the plant as it grows up, and then it has these beautiful sprays of small white flowers that are simply irresistible to pollinators. So again, you're doing something for your garden ecosystem and you're benefiting your soil at the same time. And another cover crop for the warm season that could be used in a similar way as the daikon radish is sweet potatoes. Yes, we want to grow these for food, and they're delicious, and you can certainly get some of that out of your garden, but they can also work to break up heavy soil. They might not grow and develop as well in a really compacted clay soil, but they will work in its benefit. And again, they're going to trail out and vine and cover the ground. They'll actually root along that stem really easily. If you give them some irrigation, that will just really foster them to be more vigorous, and that can do a lot to transform your soil. If you take a look at these raised beds, it might not look like there's much going on, but I have amended the soil recently and I am planting them out. In the meantime, I do have a really good layer of mulch in place, and in many of them I have already started seeding. So this is just to kind of articulate, even if you don't have something actively growing, you can have something in place which can help to foster that soil biology. Now, if you want to go really thick and broadcast cover crops and not have any mulch in place, you can certainly do that. You're going to have a period of time where you might not have a lot to cover the bare soil, but that's just going to be how it goes. You just have to think about your long-term goals and how those cover crops will eventually grow up to protect and nurture your soil. So if you're a gardener and you haven't tried cover crops, you need to give it a shot, because the reasons that I mentioned, not just because the soil, but the ecosystem and all the pollinators in your garden, this will create habitat for them. And whether or not you're growing for food or not, you can manifest biological diversity with these. I have seen hummingbirds sipping nectar from my southern peas as they bloom, and also, bumblebees, carpenter bees, all kinds of critters coming around. And I just love that, because the more diversity we have in our gardens, completely, top and bottom, the better off we will be. When you leave your soil bare, you will be void of all that life, and nothing will be there to carry forward. Cover crops can help you bridge that gap, and they can do a lot for your garden ecosystem. Okay, just do that thing with your little jet. Swoop on, swooping, keep on flying. Now check out more awesome gardening videos on my channel. Like this video and follow New Garden Road for weekly content. You can grow your own food. Keep it organic.